The Winter Wonderland outfit continues with the very simplest version of a keyhole scarf. What makes it a keyhole scarf is that there's a long tail, a short tail, and a slit, and one tail slides through the slit, keeping the scarf closed without a knot. I have an entire book of keyhole scarves for humans, and the doll versions appear in this book along with quite a few other patterns for dolls, stuffed animals, and toys. Links to the books will appear in the program notes. Let's compare the more elaborate versions of the scarf. This is another doll scarf, and I have a video of it. It's tubular knitted with the one we're going to knit today. Here's another tubular knitted Barbie scarf, and you can see it's just like an adult human version. It's completely non-rolling, and if it were 10 times that size, you could wear it. The one we're knitting today is a simple strip of stockinette with an eyelet in it made by transferring a couple of stitches. It only works well in teeny-weeny sizes. It's taking advantage of the fact that a narrow strip of stockinette tends to roll and resemble a tube. I'm working with Mary Maxim Festive Feet yarn. It's a sock yarn with a little bit of stretch built into it and very good for this project. I'm using up for this outfit leftovers from adult sock patterns that I made and a baby sock pattern. And there are actually videos on several of these socks for you to follow, as well as they'll be in print in Country Knitting and Maine News and Views, and eventually in a book. You do not have to use this yarn for this pattern. Any fingering yarn will basically do the job. Sock yarn is extra good. You're aiming for a gauge of 7 stitches, 10 rows per inch, not knitting as tightly as we would for socks. The drape of a scarf should be a looser fabric. For this pattern, getting close to gauge is good enough. It need not be perfect. If your yarn is not already rewound from the skein it comes in, you will definitely want to do that. And there are a good many more tips on managing sock yarns on the knitting machine in a video on that subject, to which I'll place a link in the program notes. Begin by casting on 14 stitches. Any neat cast on is just fine. I'm E-wrapping here. If it was important to me to make the beginning and ending match perfectly, I would chain around the needle shanks and then bind off, either with the transfer bind off or working with the latch tool around the gate pegs. Knit 24 plain rows, and I'm doing my usual, starting out by knitting back from hole to make things easier. I'm just using my fingertips, but you can use claw weights to help if you need them. Now there are 2 center stitches. If you counted from each side, each one of them would be called stitch 7. Transfer both stitch 7s to needle 6, left or right of it, as I'm doing right there. This is going to create an eyelet. We'll leave one of those stitch 7 needle 7s out of work, but one in work, knit across, place the second one in work, and knit across. Super simple method of making an extra wide eyelet. This is not something I'd use on a special garment. This is a doll outfit. The short tail and the keyhole are finished, so now we'll just knit 46 plain stockinette rows and then bind off using whatever method that you prefer. Transfer method is fine. If you want to match the E-wraps, back stitch is your closest match. I'm just going to bind off around the gate pegs because I don't care that much whether it's a perfect match. If this is a bind off you'd like to learn, I do have an entire video on it that shows you in better detail. When the bind off is complete, weave the beginning and ending yarn tails into the cast on and bind off respectively. And here's how it goes together. I should mention here, you can get special and different looks by changing the lengths of the yarn tails. Here we knitted the short one, then the keyhole, then the long one. You could make them both longer, or you could make them both shorter and get a completely different look. What you do need to be aware of is that there needs to be enough on the long tail for the trip around the neck, plus the knot portion and enough of a tail to stay put. So that's it. This takes literally about 5 minutes, and if you help her with the bind off, cast on, and eyelet, your little girls can definitely help knit this scarf.